What's going on, guys? Did you ever want your sub to sound like this? Well, then this is the video for you. We're all gonna become sub masters after this. So we're gonna talk about what exactly is a sub. I think you guys are getting confused when you're creating your subs what exactly a sub is. And then we're gonna talk about what notes are the strongest notes for a sub to be played in. Then I'm gonna show you guys how to make the perfect sub inside of Serum. And I'm gonna prove that word perfect visually. And then finally, we're gonna talk about a technique known as pinning the sub, and this will keep your sub volume consistent regardless of the note being played. All right, let's get into it. So first of all, what is a sub? Well, when you're listening to a track like this, you might think both of these things were my sub. So listening here, but actually that's two tracks. My sub is right here. And still sounding very, very huge. And just to be fair, this is one instrument. I'm routing the sound from my sub track into my mid sub track and processing it a little bit differently. If you want to see a video on building the mid bass with distortion, I'll put a link in the description. I have one. But today I want to talk about the low sub bass. So a sub bass is simply 30 hertz to 100 hertz or 150, depending upon what you want. I'm gonna say 100. So now that we know what a sub is and what a sub isn't, now we can start processing these guys correctly, because when you try to trap all the low frequencies of a sub plus the distorted high end of a sub all in one track, it's just not gonna work, unless of course you're building a rack or something like that, but you can't just treat a sub like that in one linear chain. Okay, now that we know that, let's go a little bit deeper. So if I'm writing a song that needs to be really heavy in the bass, are there certain keys that I should gravitate towards? Or does it really not matter if you make a good sub? Well, I think there are absolutely bass heavy keys, and I'm going to show you what I mean right now. So on this track, I just have a default Serum and an EQ and then a tuner so you can see what note I'm playing. So first thing we're going to do is talk about what a sub is usually, right? So a sub is usually simply a sine wave. So we could find a sine wave right here, and we'll go into basic shapes, and here's our sine wave. So if I play an F, we could see it down on the EQ. So let's go ahead and trap the frequencies like we said. So we got 30 hertz to 100 hertz. I'm gonna go ahead and engage the ×4 steeper slope just so we can get an isolated idea of what the sub is. Some people like the steep slope, some people don't. I think for sub frequencies, it's okay to be a little tighter on the slope because it's such a big sound anyway, and I want more control. So this is what 30 hertz to 100 hertz looks like. The sub is really just this little spot. So again, let's play an F. Now look at that, we're living right inside that little bubble, and we're all the way at the bottom. So let's talk about this a little bit. So if I go from F to E, okay, already it got a little bit thinner, but we're in that same power zone. Let's go down to E flat or D sharp. All right, now half of my sub is outside of the box and too low. So if you say, oh, just open your box up lower than 30 hertz, but you can't hear anything lower than 30 hertz. So now we're out of the audible range. In fact, let me go ahead and prove that to you. I'll turn off 8 and I'll flip this around and let's see if we can hear anything under here. As you can see, there's really not much audible under 30 hertz. It's more of a rumble that you don't really need. Let's go back to where we were. So now we know that once you get outside of this box, you're really playing stuff that can't be heard. So anything below an E, I think is way too low. An E is arguably too low. I believe F to be the one to shoot for. Now F sharp or G flat's not bad. Once I get to G, it's really powerful sounding, but we are kind of off this line a little bit. Now, once I get up to G sharp or A flat, now there's a noticeable gap here, which we don't want. And then A is just, you're out of the power range. You can even feel the difference. Let me play A and then F. Feels different. So that being said, I would say if you're making a bass heavy song, try to stay around F. So E, F, F sharp, or G. Remember guys, if you want to do it a certain way and you don't want to take my advice, you're totally free to do that. I know when it comes to these kind of things, everybody's an authority. So if you want to go lower than 30 hertz, do it. I'm just showing you what works best for me. Now that we know that, let me show you guys how to make what I think is the perfect sub. But before we jump into it, let me encourage you guys to hit that subscribe button and the little bell. It'll keep you notified every time I have a new video. As an Ableton certified trainer and instructor at Icon Collective, Warp Academy, and Evident, I talk about everything from sound design to cool plugins you need to know about to tips and tricks on Ableton. I also do some finger drumming here and some cool original music, so stay connected. All right, now it's time to make the perfect sub. And it's not really that hard to do, so I'm going to show you a couple of quick moves that'll really optimize your sub. So the first thing you might notice is that F doesn't fill in the whole box. There's a little bit of a gap. So a lot of people right away will reach for a saturator to solve this problem, and then add drive to just arbitrarily add harmonics to fill in the box. And that sounds okay, that's not bad, but I'm going to show you guys how to be a little more precise. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up here and we're going to hit this, go into the editor, and we're going to make our own wavetable. We're going to push up on this one, and that's going to give us a sine wave. And then if I go halfway here, and then halfway again, and then halfway again, I'm creating just the harmonics that I want. So now when I play an F, let's take a look at what's happening down here in the EQ. So look at that. I don't even really need the top two, to be honest with you, but I leave them there anyway because when I did route it to my mid sub, those extra harmonics are going to help me. So this is actually helping my F fill up the entire box. And as I go up, you can see it's working with all the notes and it's only filling in what I want and not giving me any extra harmonics. This is one of the things that I'm going to say makes an amazing sub. Now we could definitely polish this a bit. One more thing that's pretty amazing. I'm going to actually go to my envelope and I'm going to turn down my sustain. And then I'm going to set my decay by typing in a fraction. I'm going to go 1/32. And that's going to give me a 30-second note based on the tempo that I'm in. Check this out. So at 50 milliseconds, that is a 30-second note at the tempo that I'm at. So what I'm going to do with that is head over to the matrix. I'm going to go ahead and grab the source, envelope 2, and I'm going to say, all right, cool, destination is going to be global master tune. And that's going to be tuning the entire sub at once. I know we're only using one oscillator, but this is how I like to do it. And then I'm going to go ahead and just jack up the amount, and let's hear what happens to this. So this is going to thump down in a 30-second note. If I open it up, I'll bring it back to 50. If I open it up, you'll see what's happening. But we're doing it so fast that it sounds like a thump. In fact, I want to do it in time with my song. And this is going to give me a nice attack on the front of my sub. The final thing that I'll do is simply turn it to mono because I want my sub to only be mono. And if I play two notes at the same time, I want one to cut the other one off. So that's it, guys. That's all there is to making the perfect sub inside of Serum. The only thing left to do is show you guys how to pin the sub so the volume never moves. I'm going to just erase this track here. We don't need it anymore because I'm going to go back into the sub track that I have here, which is the same thing. I just have the sub that we created together. I have the same frequencies trapped here. I just have a utility on this making, well, you can make everything mono, just to be sure my sub's in mono. And then, okay, here is the trick about pinning the sub. And a lot of you guys are going to be like, I don't want to do it, or it feels weird. Everything about this is wrong, but it's not. This is a great idea. So what we're going to do is literally just smash it, okay? All the way up. Now there's a few things I want to mention here. You may have a different limiter. I'm showing you guys how to use the one in Ableton because it's stock. My personal preference in limiters is the L1 by Waves, but this one works really good and everybody that has Ableton will have this one as well. The Waves one sounds a little bit better, but this one sounds pretty good as long as you know a couple of pro tips, which I'm about to tell you. So this isn't a pro tip, but I just use the ceiling to gain stage. So that's what you're looking at here. If I tab over to session view, you can see that the output is 14 here. Okay, so if I solo this and play it, okay, I can reset the meter. It's going to stay at -14 dB. even though my track volume is still at 0. So this is how I'm gain staging. So that's not really the important part. The important part is turning the gain all the way up and getting a lot of reduction. Okay, now to get a cleaner sound out of this with no distortion, what you're gonna wanna do is set your look ahead to 6 milliseconds. This will minimize the distortion when going through the limiter. And then I keep it on auto. And what this does is prevents your sub from changing volumes when other notes are played. So I know a lot of you guys struggle with this, as I did before as well. You could play one note and it sounds one way, and then you play a note 3 semitones above it or below it, and the volume is completely different. And this is not what I want. So what I'm gonna do is show you guys in this section right here, where we do a lot of jumping around, that the volume does not change at all with this pinning sub technique. Let's check this out. By the way, what you're hearing is a sidechain. Let me just turn that off for a second. So no matter what note we played, it all stayed the same volume. And this is what we want out of our sub. Subs already have super high RMS and are not very dynamic. So we're not worried about smashing the dynamics away from our sub, because there are no dynamics in your sub. What we're worried about is controlling the volume and the energy that the sub creates. The sub is the foundation to your entire song. And with a firm foundation, your song will sit more securely and come across more powerful. All right, guys, I hope that helped demystify the sub for you guys and how to handle it. If you want to know more about the sub, or if I missed something, please let me know in the comments. I'd be happy to answer it. Remember, guys, if you found this helpful, please consider subscribing to the channel. And don't forget to check out my Instagram, where I'm always posting really fun stuff. All right, guys, catch you next time.